So I'm kind of obsessed. I know Zentangle's been around a long time, and we have one of our members is a Zentangle certified Zentangle teacher. I don't know, Tony, you're not. Are you a Zentangle? Okay, so no, but it's so one of our members though. She is certified, and so I was thinking it might be fun to ask her to do a class. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you early, easy stuff, beginning stuff, and one thing and that's for today. Next week we're going to do some things with color that are really fun, and this is something that let's see if I can just grab that other one. I don't know where I put it. This kind of thing, these little jewel. Oh yeah, the gems. I did a couple of them. And I love the colored pencil, this little technique with the Zentangle or the doodles around it. So we're going to be doing that next week. I just wanted to give you a little preview of that. For today, I want to just go over some really simple, some basic supplies. If you want to get into the Zentangle or the doodling practice, just some basic stuff that I kind of discovered over the past couple of weeks. And I thought, well, I'm going to dive deep into the Zentangle. I bought some tiles from the Zentangle people. I noticed that they're a little off-white in color. They're not bright white, and I actually prefer to work with a bright white. So I'm going to give you some ideas about these I also noticed are a little rough. They have a much heavier tooth, and I'm going to try using. They're 100% cotton, so it might be fun to do some watercolors on it and see how they work. What's cool about them, though, is they do give you a little printing on the back, so you can put the name of your design on the back and notes and things like that. And that's kind of neat. I like that for that reason. So I tried these. They're 3.5 inches square, 100% rag, cotton, which is nice. But I really like these for the brightness of the color of the. I like the brightness of the white, and I also like the surface. It's a vellum surface. I cut mine down to fit the Zentangle size. But what's kind of cool, if you want that kind of soft edge, you can actually use a corner rounder and get the same thing that you would with the tile. I'm just a little ideas. Don't have to do that. Another thing that would be great is to just do your drawings in an art journal. Just take your journal and maybe even dedicate a journal to this practice, and that would be really fun. And all you need are your basic pens, fine tip pens like the Micron. I'm going to use the 01. You can use this, just the fine tips are nice. It's a 3, a 5, and a 1. Those are probably the most popular sizes. I'm going to put these aside for a sec. Also, I've discovered some things about pencils. I didn't know. I mean, graphite comes in so many different, I don't know, configurations or shiny levels. There's some that are more shiny when they're laid down, and some are more black. So I thought it was just all the same. But I did find these 3 here. I'm going to just share with you these 3. If you want to get the blackest blacks, I think that this one here, the Kimberly's 9XXB, and it's General Pencil Company, that gives the darkest black, and it doesn't shine like a lot of graphite does. It doesn't have that shine. So that's a dark black one. Another one is this Caran d'Ache. It's a 9B as well. So basically a 9B or hard or softer, it's going to give you the blackest blacks. But this one's a really nice one, but it's a little shinier. And this also General's Layout Extra Black, number 555. Those 3 pencils, I'm kind of enjoying working with these the most. But any graphite pencil you have is great. And a blending stump, last week we made our own blending stumps. And another little nice thing to have if you're going to be doing some repetitive patterns is just plain old circle templates or square little templates made. You can get squares, which I don't have the squares yet. I'm going to buy some. Just some basic squares and basic circles like this. This is a Statler. It's a professional template, circle template, and they also have them in squares and ovals. And those will be really great for doing gems. If we're going to make gem shapes, or the ovals would be great for the cabochons. If you want to make our another thing is a good eraser. I also have a little eraser, these electric erasers. These are handy because they erase fast. This one's a super fine tip, and this one's just your regular fine tip. Another little thing that the drafting people use, this is an eraser shield. So if you want to get really bright highlights that, are very specific bright highlights, you just you erase through that shield and it gives you great highlights. That's good for drawing. If you want to do like very realistic glass or just reflections, these are nice to have. They have these different shapes that you can create your own highlights. So today we're going to do a couple of designs. One is called Cruffle. Basically, it's this kind of thing. Now, what I did is I used my circle template. I thought this one was a really neat one too. This would be fun too. So the circles are all kind of off shape. This is just a stencil I've had for a long time. I'm trying to see. Oh, it's Artist Seller. It's beautiful. They have beautiful stencils. I like this because of the randomness of it. And then there's also this stencil. These are from, I believe these are the Jelly Arts stencils, and I like them. So, just anything. If you don't have stencils, that's fine too. Just hand draw is fine. But I just kind of show you how I'm going to use a stencil today on this one. So grab a tile or use your art journal. I'm going to just grab this little guy. And you can use a pen, or you could use a pen to start. You can just use your pen and just start with whatever size circles you want. You could make different sizes. You could make it one in the central that's big. However, you just create like 5 to, maybe quite a few circles. Just draw some circles. And I'm going to take my pen and I'm just going to go around and I'm going to make a circle. Now I love this stencil because I can get a beautifully even circle. I can't do that so much with my freehand, because a freehand, then it's going to be, but it's fine. If you need to just do a circle with a freehand, here's the difference. So now I'm going to try to make a circle, and that's okay. Just make the circle join at where you started, if you can. Even if it's a little off and wonky, that's okay. You'll just want to take your circles once you've made your big circle. Just make several circles to just touch your circle. So here we go, like this. Just make about 7 or 8, just several circles. I'm going to do this, continue this with this, and I'm going to change the size. And what I love about this is I can just change the size, and I want it to touch the circle. I don't want to overlap it. I just want it to touch, kind of kiss the other one. So I'm just going to make another circle. So it's just kissing it, just touching it barely. I'm going to make another one in a different size. These little templates are just so handy for many things. I think I've used this several times in our club. And I'm going to make a bigger circle, let's see. I'm going to just play around and decide. But if you don't have a template, just start making circles that touch each other. And have them kind of, see how I'm kind of randomly doing that. I'm going to try to change up the size on each one so they don't look so perfect. And this process can go pretty fast. Now I've got 5 circles, and now what I can do is start to I can try to have them touch each other by finding the circle that closely matches. Like here's one right here that's beautiful. All right, that's where I'll have it be, right here. And now I'm just gonna, I can go to the outside of the square, or I can just keep it in however I want to do this. I'm just gonna make this one touching both sides of that circle, and then just go around slowly. Now that I have that, I'm going to do a couple of little ones, and then I'm going to start doing the actual process of the drawing. Just going to find a small circle that touches. Maybe that one or that one. There we are. And if I want to now, I could just start filling in randomly. I'm just going to fill in just to get these little guys to touch, little circles on the inside. Okay, so just going to stop right there just to kind of get you started on the actual process of this little design called Cruffle. And what it is what you need to do is kind of a yin-yang shape. You're going to make an S shape right in the middle of one of your circles. You can use your pen or a pencil. I'm going to start with up at the upper, like at 1 o'clock. And I'm going to make an S shape. And I'm going to end right here. So I've got this S shape. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take on this bottom of this S, right at the bottom, I'm going to bring my pen and I'm going to just draw a shape that follows the shape, kind of like out, kind of follows that shape all the way around. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start right at this bottom edge, follow it again around the same distance until I've got this little loop-de-loop thing going here. It looks like a paisley part, kind of a part of a paisley. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to bring my pen from the bottom, and I'm just going to follow the shape of this curve, going outside to the circle, coming back, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I've got basically these lines going here. Now, I'm not going to do these other ones yet, but I will do the other ones. And I just wanted to show you, if you wanted to go a little, if you want to shade at this point, or make a dark, you can make another line. Let's go right in here and make a little tiny one, and just color it in black, just to kind of give it some contrast. Or if you want to go all the way out, which I think I'm going to do, I like the dramatic feel of this. I'm just going to fill in that last curvy shape that I made on both sides. I'm going to do this on both sides. If you have a thicker pen, it might be better, or even a little brush tip would be nice to fill in dark areas. But this is fine too. It just takes a little more time. Okay, so now that I've done that, now I would probably want to do this to all of my little circles. So let's just do it on a couple of more, just to kind of get the practice of doing this. And it doesn't have to be in the same direction. In fact, I'd prefer, you probably want to try it in different directions. So I'm going to make my little S curve on my second circle. Okay, and let's just do this on all of our circles, just to get them started. However you want to do it, let's just rotate the paper or your journal and make little S's on all of your circles. And you can make them in any direction, but I'm going to kind of do it so that they're kind of going out, starting basically at the outside of the circle and then just making that S. So this gives us a little practice of that line that we're making. And they don't have to be exactly the same. They're just kind of practicing that S shape, or that little curve, the S curve. So now I've got all of those. And I can also go in here and do it in the little one if I want, but I'm going to hold off for that. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring this pen down at the bottom of that S, and I'm going to just follow the edge. And I'm going to come in, back in. Same thing, I'm going to just follow that. And bring it, just have it end right where you started. And the same thing, let's just do this with all of these since we're following a pattern. And it also gets us in that mode of kind of peace and quiet, slowing down our minds and just focusing on one thing. Focusing on the line, focusing on the now. What's happening right now is we are drawing these beautiful curved lines. Hands are as steady as they can be, which sometimes doesn't have to be perfectly steady. It is your line. And I'm just going to do another little one here. Some of the smaller ones you'll see, you'll have smaller shapes, but it all works. I think this one's a really fun one. And it's a good one for people just starting out in this. It's not really complex, but it's really beautiful. It has a flow to it, especially when we start to shade it. They remind me of marbles. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over, and I want to start making my, from the bottom up of this side, I'm going to do the same thing, bringing that line, following the shape of the circle, curve, and then I'm just stopping where I started, and the same thing, bringing this around, and then I've got this beautiful motif going. Same on this one. I'm just going to bring that line around and bring it again, making those lines just starting where you start and where you end is the same place. We're going to bring this same thing on this next circle. And then the next circle. These almost look like paisley shapes too, or little quotation marks. Next one. You don't have to, I think the better you flow or the less, like I notice it in the beginning of drawing a practice, I notice that I'm kind of tight, with my hands. I get kind of, I need to loosen up. So if you can just give yourself the freedom to just let the pen sort of guide, let your hand move, and then keep that a loose grip on the paper. I guess I'm trying to think of how, I think a pen that has plenty of ink in it is going to be easier than when it's dry. So I'm going to just do a couple of more. I'm going to add a couple more circles right here. Let's see that one right there. I could have done it with a freehand, but I do like that nice feeling of how I like the way the stencil works, because I can just kind of whip those circles out really quickly. And I'm just going to take where the little openings are. I'm going to fill them in with more circles, just to kind of fill it in. And if I have little tiny spots, then I'm going to fill them in with little tiny circles. Little tiny ones. Just kind of fill in that space. And they'll look like little bubbles. And you may want to fill some of those in with black later, but we'll just do circles to start. It can be slightly wonky, it can be perfectly circular, however you want to do it, but see how it kind of fills that space in. And it just makes it really interesting because the big circles kind of contrast with the little ones. You can even take some little circles on the outside if you want, like just little ones to kind of fill the space. Of course, you can just keep building on this. This doesn't have to be the end all. But so what I've got here is just this little interesting shape. So let's start. We can fill these in with our pen, those little teardrop shapes or these little shapes here. Just fill it in, or you can leave them blank. The next step I want to show you is the shading part. And this is the shading is something that will give this whole thing another whole new dimension. It'll make it look round and three-dimensional. So I'll just do these two, and then the rest I will do later with the pen. What's nice is the pen and the pencil, you can layer over each other, so that's kind of nice. So, it's okay. You can stop using the pen, go to the pencil, and you're okay. It's okay. So I'm going to try for fun. I'm going to try this one. Just see. I'm going to do different ones, the shading differently with each one. So take your pencil on your first circle and just right at the beginning of these little, the bottom of your S, just take it and bring that pencil out, kind of at shading, just bring it from the bottom and work it just around the circle a little bit, maybe about that far. It's not very far, just the very bottom of your, or the beginning of your little curves there. Just kind of make a little, shade a little area there. You can always add more dark later, but it's always good just kind of start light and now go in that curve just a little bit, kind of take your pencil and just shade it a little bit. Now I'm also going to go on the outside edge just very lightly on the outside edge of my circle. Super light. And I have much more pencil or more graphite in those little curved or little pointy areas of the curve. Okay, so now I've got that. Now take your blender. However, if you have a handmade one or one that you bought, you just take it and you start to bring out that graphite and shade it just by taking your blender and you want to leave the whites though. You want to leave white areas. So you just find your kind of light source, I guess. Well, in this case, the light source is in two different places, but we're going to be covering that next week, the light source. But just kind of have a plate, you're just creating dimension and three-dimensionality a little bit. This one you can see now it's sort of highlighted and also shaded, and that gives it a roundness, more of a roundness. So do that with all of your little, let's try this. I like this pen. Okay, this Caran d'Ache, it's called Graphwood. I should wonder if this little label is on. I don't know if there's a number on there or not. Let's see. Not really. So this pencil is very pleasant compared to some others. So I'm going to rate this one as a 10. Caran d'Ache. I got it on Amazon. I noticed it doesn't have much shine to it at all. There's a little shine. I'm going to do the next one just to show you with this one. This is that Kimberly one. This one feels a little scratchier, as I remember, but it's extremely black. And it's very matte. It doesn't have any shine. So just depending on what you're looking for. So just go ahead and do your little shades right at the beginning of these curves. And then if you want to go around, now you can try this one without going around. Let's just do it like this and see how it works. And then you can always add more later. So let's see what happens. So we're going to take that blender and just blend it and just scrub it around. Soft blend. That's nice. And you want to take, of course, when you're blending, go from the pencil, from the darkest part of the pencil and just kind of push out the graphite, and that softens it until it blends to a very nice soft edge. So there it is without the little edge, and I kind of like that. I think that might be even better to go. And I can always just take a little bit of my graphite and scooch it around on the outside edges looks like I can draw. I'm able to just drag it, and that looks nice. I like that better, I think. That's a little easier too. Now, if you want to just try, okay, let me try this one. This is the layout pencil. I'm going to try doing it without, I haven't colored these in, but let's see what happens. This is the layout pencil. This is nice and sharp. It doesn't feel scratchy, kind of like the last one did. It's a little smooth, but it's a lot more shiny. I'm seeing it's a lot shinier. And that could be an effect you like. It could be an effect you don't want. So, but it has a nice sharp point to draw with, so that's kind of nice. So now I'm going to take my blender and I'm going to just do this shading. The shade's really nice, actually. This pencil, the layout has actually nicer, seems to go longer. The graphite is kind of, seems to pull out a lot more graphite when I'm doing this blending. Yeah, that looks nice too. Now another thing, when your blender starts to get a little weird, it starts to get a little dull, you can always sharpen your blender with this little piece of sandpaper. Something I didn't know after all these years. But you can sharpen your blender just gently by rolling it back and forth on a piece of sandpaper, and that actually can clean it off, and it also gives you a sharper edge. So now we've got that. We did that one, and I want to go over the next one. So keep filling in. When you have some time, keep doing the shading, and then just kind of playing with it until you get an effect that you like. So I'll just show you my finished one on this one, and so this is entirely different, but I'll keep working on it. I actually went dark right in between the circles to pop it out a little bit. But keep going. And then when you're finished with it, just sign it. If you have an initial or your name or and the date, however you want it to be signed, you would just do it that way. But I'm going to move to the next pattern because this one's really cool. This one's called Huggins, and it is a beautiful pattern for shading and creating dimension. So you can see this is my first attempt at it, and I really love the way it just kind of weaves in and out, and it's a really simple pattern to do, and it could be used for lots of things, borders and all kinds of things. So instead of going all the way out to the edge, today I'm going to just draw a loose line, kind of just give myself, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but a loose line. I'll make a square shape. There, so I just did that. So I've got that's the inside. And now what I need to do is to make 4 circles, and I kind of want them even. Now, you could do a pencil line we could do a pencil line, which is kind of a nice thing. It kind of gives you something to work with. Like if I want to just divide it 4, 1, 2, let's see, I never know. Okay, 3 and 4. So what I want to do is kind of make it even, and so it's a little bit hard to divide in 4 even spaces, but I kind of give myself a visual guide right here. Now I could do it with just straight down. I'm going to just do a little line so that I have 4. These will be erased by the. I'm going to erase these, but I want you to see how you could do it this way, 3 and 4. So kind of want these to be kind of even-ish. So there we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So 1, 2, 3. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make circles, and then I'm going to erase once I'm done. So I'm going to make some circles right in these little intersections here, and they're going to be good-sized circles. I could do it with my template, or I can do it just by making a dot. I'm going to just take it right in the intersection of my little lines that I made. And they don't have to be beautiful, perfect circles. I'm making mine a little slightly wonky. But they could be done with a circle template too. So I've got 4, and then I'm just going to do another set of 4. My door is creaking. I think my cat's coming in to try to roost. Just make these sort of, the bigger the circle, the more dramatic the design will be. If you make just little dots, it's not as dramatic. So just kind of on the bigger side is good. I think it'd be maybe also a black pen that just creates dots would even be better. Like maybe a big, not a Sharpie, but I'm trying to think of that pen, that Posca pen. It's you can make pretty large dots with it. That might be a nice way. Or you can even take a pen, acrylic paint, matte acrylic paint, and you can create dots with a dot maker tool or a flat anything. You could do that. Would be kind of fun, even though it's not really in line with the purity of the Zentangle. But why not? If you want to make dots quickly, you could do it any way you want. Even a Q-tip dipped in matte black paint would be really cool for this one. So now I've got my dots all done. They're all done. So I'm going to erase these lines. And I'm going to grab an eraser, which I didn't have. And I'm just going to get rid of those lines because they're going to get in my way. So make sure your paint's dry or your ink is dry, but erase all of your lines. No, I don't know if that was dry, but give it a little time to dry. Just get rid of those lines. Ooh, I smeared. See what happened? I let that smear, but that's all right. It will be part of the drawing. So giving it a little time to dry is a good thing. And some papers are more absorbent than others, so that it's a little smeared, but we're going to make this work. So now I have all my little grid. It's like a little dot grid going here, and now I'm ready to make my little designs. This is such a neat thing. Okay, so depending on which way you want to just kind of have it ready. I think what I'll do is, since I kind of see where I made a boo-boo here, I'm going to do it this way so I can kind of work with that. Okay, so now I'm going to take my pen, and to make your design, you're going to take your pen and you're going to start at the top circle, starting on one end, and you're going to kind of go around. You're going to make like a curved line that joins the two circles, okay? And then you're going to do this on this one. The next one, you're going to make a curved line going in the other direction, joining those two circles. And then I'm going to do the same thing, taking a line, and I'm going to make it slightly curved and join the two circles. And I'm going to just end it by creating this line here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just take that and draw it up here. So now I've got that. So the next one is I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to go the opposite, joining the circles to make a curved line on that one. And on this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just kind of go every other one, making that curve. Just basically following that dot. You can just start at the one place and you can go all the way around if you want it, kind of to give that flow. Basically, these lines are hugging those little circles. I think that's probably why they call it huggins. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to just kind of basically every other one. So here I started this one, here I started this way, and now I'm going to go in this direction. You want to just alternate those lines, those curved lines. I'm going to make a curve here. That was not that curved. Depending on how much of a curve you make, it changes the whole look. There we go. So now I've got that. So on this one, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And same thing, I'm going to just bring this one. Which way do I need to go on that one? Oops, you know what I just did? You can see I made a boo-boo. It is what it is. I could see what I did wrong, but it's too late. I can't do anything about it. I've just totally made a boo-boo, but that's okay. It is what it is. I just did so I'm gonna make a lemonade out of lemons or whatever you do. So I'm just gonna leave that right now because I made a mistake, but that's okay. I'm gonna turn my thing over and I'm gonna bring the hugs. You can see what needs to happen. You kind of need to make the hug lines. They're like this. And then this one, I'm gonna go around here like this. And see, I've got that right. And then what happens is, because I made you can see what you need to do. You take your curved line and just go around like that. So that is right. I'm going to do the same thing. And this one is a little cattywampus because you see now I can't, there's no way to hug this. Now, what will happen if I wanted to do the hugging part, that's going to go around like that. It's going to be a new look because I just have to make lemonade out of lemons. So I've just created a new thing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see it shaded. So I'm just going to go around and make a little S curve because it's what makes sense for this particular. I'm able to go around. So I've got something new. Here, I'm going to do this. You can always just go with whatever happens. Go with the flow. Now I'm just going to go hug this circles here. And you can see this is almost where it's like kind of intuitive. You can feel that where how your line will go around that circle. Now here I've changed it up, so I'm going to go around like this and this. Okay, kind of like that. It's totally different. It's got a little. There was a curvy change that happened, but I think it's fun. It's still a pattern. It just changed. So you can see here's a very uniform one where I didn't change the direction. But here I did, and still I'm able to get something I really think that's going to be fun to shade. So now all it needs to be done is shading. So you take your pencil, whatever your favorite is, and I'm going to take this one, and you just kind of create shades that kind of make sense. So I'm going to put I'm going to put some pencil right here on I'm just going to go around here like this. I'm going to basically where these lines are, you're going to want to make shades. Same thing. Let's just go around this here on this, kind of hugging the same thing. We're going to go on the inside of these shapes. Let's see, maybe on this one I'll go on the outside. No, I'll go on the inside. And just go throughout all these curved lines and do some pencil around it. So you'd want to do the same thing here. You just go kind of on one side of the shape. I'm going to do this on all of these. Just take your pencil and you can shade different ways. There's no real steadfast rule on this. Just kind of go with what makes sense. Just putting your pencil line down. And then you'll see, once you start to blend, you'll start to see patterns that you will emerge, or the highlights will emerge. Just follow, kind of just go with what your intuition says on the shading part. So I'm just going to go on the outside of these and the outside of these. Basically, if you go around each of these lines, you're going to be able to get a nice shade. What I'm seeing is it looks like if we start our pencil line on the outside of the circle, kind of like we did with our other lines, I think it'll be fine. I think I've got all of those pretty much. It's funny, I made a new design, but it really works. I think it's going to work just by. Okay, so I've got every line has some kind of pencil on it now, I think. Yeah. So now it's time to take your blender and just start going from the circles, kind of move them, shade that, and give it just like a little curve so that it looks like it's highlighted. You can kind of just play with the shading and going like I think where the circles are, and then just kind of work that, and you'll see sort of the form starts to take form. I'm wondering it'd be interesting if we all went this way and made a boo-boo, or if you guys are doing fine. It just kind of happened. I was talking and it happens. I like this new kind of, it looks very, kind of fools the eye a little bit. So now we're just shading and creating dimension, highlights and lowlights. And this can be used as a border or a frame. I think would be really pretty, or just by itself. It's just kind of an interesting shape. It'd be nice to journal around these edges too. Since I left a border, I could write a thought, which I think will be let's see, what would they say? Think of a really nice quote to put in there. Just use your blender and kind of soften the areas. And here I need to kind of, where that smear is, I need to cover it up with my blending tool. And so now you can see how it's lifting. I've got areas that are kind of receding back. Just it's looking at it from, maybe turning it around and just kind of looking at it in different angles will give you an idea of how you're going to shade it. It looks like maybe the receding parts are the circles. They kind of drop backwards or drop behind. And you can just do as much as you want or as little as you want. Make that shape, those shapes come out. But definitely, if you put pencil down, try to blend it because you'll notice that it softens with that pencil. I think with this, since I did make a boo-boo, this side is great, and this one doesn't know where it wants to go shade-wise. I'm just going to try to make lemonade. And you can also always use your eraser, like let's say you wanted to just bring back a highlight. You have too much of one, shaded too much of something. You can always just use your, like I'm just going to kind of go crazy here and show you what I mean. I'm going to just take this section, maybe shade the whole thing, that'd be kind of fun. And then I'm going to bring out some highlights using my eraser. So I'm just doing it on this side. So you can use your regular eraser and you can just take a nice corner and just kind of take out, you can take out highlights just by erasing, which is kind of fun. And that is another way of doing it too, bringing back the highlights. Or if you have one of these, or if I wanted to get really crazy, I just use one of these. But this is good for maybe, I don't think it would be good for that. So this little guy, I love this because it just makes quick work of erasing. And then I can also take some more blending because it does make a sharp edge. But then you can also take your blender and just soften it, that edge again. And this is just a handy tool for detail, and just keep working it until you get it to the way you like it. So that one is the Huggins, which took a detour. Huggins took a detour. And they kind of remind me, these little, looks like little cups or something. And then this is more of a weaving. that just kind of went. So you can see this is how it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to show you the pattern because this came from a book, actually my book. Well, not my book, a book I bought on, it's a Kindle book. And this is how the steps are. So this is, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's kind of, that came from Zendoodle Primer Volume 1. That's the book that I used. So if I wanted to do this little, I'm just going to take I'm going to take a little strip here. And I'm going to create some circles. This time, I'm going to do it again. This time I'm going to make this little shape again, but I'm going to just do, I'll do 4 circles. Except close together, kind of close together because I don't have a lot of room on this. Here's 4 circles, and I'm going to do 4 again. It's going to be a little bit quicker on this. So basically I'm making a grid of 12 circles. No, I'm making a grid of more than that, 16. So now there we go. So I'm going to do a little miniaturized version of that. I'm going to just try to follow it correctly this time. So now I'm going to take my little curve and I'm going to bring it like this. Looks like a little, like a drawer handle. And I'm going to bring this, go around this way. Okay, now going in the opposite direction. And this one, I'm going to go this way. And this one will go. So basically every other, when you're going across, it's every other, you just you flip that curve, and that's how you get that shape. I could draw a little square around it just to kind of close it up. And then what I could do is just continue those shapes. And this can be done if you were doing a Zentangle, or you wanted to do a whole section, you can actually do it this way. Just close it in. And so this way, now I'm going to do the same thing here. So it's cute, even it looks really cool, even when it's done kind of quickly, when it's not as precise, it still has a really interesting shape or look to it. Oops, I didn't there. Okay, so that's that little pattern in a smaller version, and I could shade it. Now when you're shading it, now that I have it correct, it's right. To shade it, you want to go on those, just connect those circles with your pencil. That's kind of how, basically on the inside. And when you just flip it, you connect the circles on the other side. That will give you probably a more consistent highlighted, shaded look that you're looking for. Just connecting those circles right on the inside, following that curve. And now I'm going to just blend it with my tool. Wherever it went, it did fall on the floor. And this should actually work a lot better. Oh, I see I need to do more connecting of circles here. Just keep finding those little places where the circles need to be connected. And shade away. Blend, blend. So now this should look a lot more consistent. There we are. It's just a sweet little pattern. So now you can see how that much more dimensional, and it's just more 3D looking now than the other one was, because I just went off the path. So there it is. I'd love to see what you've done, what you're working on. Let's see.